Hey there everyone, it's me, KGrove94, back for another video. Now, in this day and age, I hope you guys are staying safe out there despite all the madness that's going on this year. Like, if there's one thing I'm sure we can all agree on about 2020, is that it's been a pretty terrible year. But despite all this madness, this year actually marks a very important landmark with regards to a very popular cartoon series. Now, over the years, we've seen many cartoons come and go, some of which have faded into obscurity, while others are still talked about even if they've ended. But with this cartoon series in particular, this one took the world by storm when it first aired back in 2010. And ever since I've gotten into this show, I was pretty shocked with what I was presented, but ever since I became a fan of the show, it's taken me on a wild ride over the 2010 decade, and to this day is still my favorite cartoon ever. And when I say it took the world by storm, I mean it literally surprised everyone with what happened afterwards. Like this show became a huge phenomenon, and I don't think anyone was expecting it to become one at all. But since it has become a phenomenon and has gained a massive following over the years, I feel like it deserves a lot of celebration this year, as it has turned 10 years old. Like, I still remember way back in the day when I was first introduced to the show, and just being so surprised by what it was offering and the following that it was getting, and all other sorts of stuff that followed afterwards. So I thought for its 10th anniversary, I thought I would talk about my experience with the show, My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Yep, you heard it right, people. MLP has now turned 10 years old. Although technically, I'm just referring to Generation 4, which does include Friendship is Magic, but you get the idea. Like 10 years ago, this show aired, and a lot has happened since then. And similar to the video that I put together to celebrate Phineas and Ferb's 10th anniversary, I thought I'd do the same for this show because, with My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, this show has meant a huge deal for me throughout the 2010 decade. And not just because that it's a great show, which it certainly is, but also because, it inspired me to be more socially active and go to new places and make new friends and be more creative with my stories and whatnot. This show was just huge. It was one of the biggest things of the 2010 decade. It was certainly huge when it first aired. I was first introduced to the show in high school, and it was quickly becoming a phenomenon then, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this show. And yeah, despite all the craziness that's happening in 2020, I knew for a fact that I had to do something to celebrate MLP's 10th anniversary. And I'm sure many other people who are invested in the show are doing the same, because this show means a huge deal to so many people around the world, you know? And because of this, I thought I'd talk about my experience with the show and all the conventions that this show has inspired that I've gone to, and all sorts of other stuff that's happened that has really improved my life for the better, you know? Now, there's definitely a lot to talk about with my experience with MLP, but don't worry, I'll try my best, and we'll just see what happens. So here we go. Way back in 2010, when MLP first aired, my life was very different than from what it is today. Back then, I was going through high school, I was going through my junior year of high school, and I had my own challenges to go through, but there were a lot of events during that year that I remember quite fondly. I remember a trip to Disneyland, and that was the year where I put together a little stop-motion fan project with some of my Beast Wars toys, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on that year. But when MLP first aired, I was actually unaware of it until the following year when I started my senior year of high school. During that time, I was part of the school's anime club, which was nice. It gave me a chance to feel like I was part of a group. But, during that time, I remember someone saying that he was interested in starting a My Little Pony group. And when I first heard that, I was like, My Little Pony? What? Yeah, I was pretty confused by this. During that time, My Little Pony as a brand was nothing new to me. I remember throughout my life, I'd occasionally see commercials of the toys, and I certainly remember the theme song too, something like, my little pony, isn't the world a pony place? Or something like that, yeah. But yeah, My Little Pony as a brand, it was something that I knew about, but had no real interest in. I didn't hate it. It was just something I knew was there. For those who did like it at the time, that was nice. But this was also during a time where gender stereotypes were girls would be more into stuff like Barbie and My Little Pony and Care Bears and whatnot, while boys, on the other hand, would be into stuff like G.I. Joe and Transformers, Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all sorts of other stuff. The point being, it was different back then. But yeah, like, a My Little Pony group in high school, that was a really odd idea for me. But then again, this was also during the time when the internet was expanding with its video websites like YouTube, and when internet memes were becoming a thing, and there was also other sorts of stuff going on, like there was Happy Tree Friends and other sorts of weird stuff. So I thought this would be like a parody thing of My Little Pony or something. I don't know. The point being, it was really weird. But then I started hearing of more people who were into this kind of stuff, and if memory serves, one of my best friends from middle school and high school started checking it out too, and I think he recommended I do the same. Or maybe it might have been me just deciding to check it out for myself, but regardless, I decided to check it out because I was like, okay, let's go see what this is about. Like, what have I got to lose? So yeah, like, I remember during lunch hour, I met up with these guys for one of these meetings in the same room where we have our anime club meetings, and it was also during this time when YouTube wasn't as messed up and annoying with its copyright stuff. So during that time, you could find full episodes of My Little Pony online, which was really cool. So yeah, I came to that meeting and we watched a full episode. The new episode at the time was The Mysterious Mare Duel, and when I watched the episode, I was pretty surprised. Like, legitimately surprised. Like, this had nothing to do with internet memes or whatnot. Like, what I saw was a show that had some very nice animation. Like, the animation in that show it really caught my eye. Like, it was very colorful and fluid, and I think someone said it was done with Flash, which was also cool. Like, it was also during this time where I decided that animation would be something I would pursue, especially after seeing movies like Toy Story 3 and seeing the 3D re-release of The Lion King in theaters, and yeah, that's what I decided to do for my life. But yeah, like, watching this episode, the animation was very nice and colorful, the characters were very appealing, the voice acting was very good too, and the story was very easy to follow, and it had a nice moral at the end. So, long story short, that initial introduction to MLP was definitely something, and it got me very curious to see more of it. Like, I remember after school, I decided to check out more about this My Little Pony show, and I went on YouTube and I found more episodes. Like, there was The Best Night Ever, the Season 1 finale, there was Party of One, Owl's Well That Ends Well, and there were a few other episodes from Season 2 also, not just The Mysterious Mare Duel, but also like Lesson 0 and Sweet and Elite and so on. So with all this and all these new episodes to check out, I was like, oh wow, this is really interesting. Like, seriously, this is so interesting. But it was also during this time where I suddenly started seeing a lot of pony stuff online, like on DeviantArt and all sorts of other websites. My Little Pony just took over. Like, I saw a lot of fan art of the characters, and I saw some fan fictions, and there was a lot of fan videos too, and songs. It was just crazy. Like, all of a sudden, MLP was just taking over just about everything online. Like, I could not believe my eyes. But given what the show was offering and what the show's about, I can see where people were coming from because that show is so well written. It's basically about this unicorn, Twilight Sparkle, who's the protege of Princess Celestia, the ruler of the Kingdom of Equestria, who is sent to Ponyville with her dragon assistant Spike to learn about friendship and whatnot. And Twilight is presented as a very studious and intelligent character who strives to do the right thing, and when she arrives in Ponyville, there are many other colorful characters, like not just literally, but also personality-wise, like you have Pinkie Pie, the hyper and energetic party pony, you have the hardworking and honest Applejack, the generous Rarity, the loyal but cocky Rainbow Dash, and the kind-hearted but very timid Fluttershy. The list goes on. Like, this show had a colorful cast of characters that were very appealing, had great vocal performances by their voice actors, and yeah, like, right off the bat, they caught my attention with how well they were written. Occasionally, some of them were annoying. Yes, I'm looking at you, early season Rainbow Dash. But yeah, in the long run, it was so cool seeing all these colorful characters. So I could definitely see why there'd be, like, a tidal wave of MLP fan stuff, you know? And it was also during this time where I discovered that it wasn't just us people in high school who were into the show. Far from it, actually. Like, this was the time where I learned of a huge fandom that was suddenly following the show. These people of whom calling themselves bronies, which is basically a combination of the words bro and pony, though there was also Pegasisters, but the word brony was much more common, and don't worry, when I say brony, I'm referring to both genders in this group, so don't worry. But anyways, yeah, I heard of this fandom and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Like, seriously, since when did this happen? But yeah, I already described why, like, the show was well written and the characters were so appealing, so yeah. But as this was a fandom, I started seeing a lot of interpretations and memes about some of the characters, and as well as fan fictions and fan videos and all sorts of other stuff. Most of them were really good, but there were some that really didn't click with me right off the bat. Like, there were some things about this fandom that I wasn't so sure about, and looking back on some things, I knew that this whole following was not 100% satisfactory for me. Like, one of the things that bugged me right off the bat was some of the memes that would paint some characters in ways that they're not presented in the show. Probably the biggest example would be this Trollestia stuff that revolves around Celestia being a mischievous troll or jerk or something. But yeah, like, this was something that I found online, and some people in my high school group bringing up a lot too. Like, this Trollestia stuff was going on, like, whenever Celestia would be brought up, and I'm like, what? What the heck are you guys talking about? Like, you know, like, my first introduction to Celestia was the best night ever in Season 1, and while she did have nice characterization in that, I didn't get a full picture of her personality until I started watching more episodes. But yeah, like, this Trollestia stuff? What the heck's the big deal with this thing anyway? But this meme wasn't just brought up right out of nowhere. Like, from what I saw from some of the Season 1 episodes, there were some moments from Celestia that just made some fans, like, be all like, "Aw, she's a troll! Trollestia! Trollestia!" Or whatever. Probably the biggest example of this would have to be the Season 1 episode, I think it's called A Bird in the Hoof or something. It's basically about Fluttershy trying to take care of Celestia's pet phoenix, Philomena, who's apparently acting sick. But near the beginning of the episode, there's a royal party at Sugar Cube Corner with Celestia being the big guest. And there's a little moment where every time Celestia takes a sip of her tea, Mr. and Mrs. Cake are nearby and immediately refill it every time she sips it dry. At first she's flattered, but like, after 1, 2, or 3 sips where the cakes immediately refill it, she gives off a mischievous look and she does a fake sip and the cake's refilled again, only for the cup to overfill and spill a little bit on the table. And she's all like, "Gotcha." Looking back on that scene, I think it's really cute and funny, and it shows a nice trait of Celestia. Like, she's very royal, wise, and powerful, but she also has a fun-loving side, and she was trying to get the cakes to lighten up a bit, which in my opinion isn't a bad thing, if you think about it. But for some reason, so many people online were all like, "Aw, that was so trollish of her, like, what the heck was she thinking?" or whatever. Early fandom weirdness, folks. That's what I can describe it as. But there were other moments in the season where people would accuse her of being trollish, like in the Ticketmaster, the 3rd episode of the show, where the whole deal with that episode is Celestia sends 2 tickets to Twilight for the Grand Galloping Gala, and throughout the episode, each of her friends tries to do favors for her in hopes that she would give them the ticket, but this would only lead to Twilight getting more and more frustrated, and the conflict would keep escalating more and more, until finally, after her friends apologize for all the madness going on, Twilight sends a letter to Celestia giving back the tickets and saying if her friends can't go, then she won't go either, or something. That moment shows Twilight's newfound loyalty to her friends, which is great, but not 20 seconds after she sends that letter, she gets a reply from Celestia with more than enough tickets enough to accommodate her and her group of friends, which is really nice. But then I keep hearing people say, like, why didn't she do that before? Like, these guys are friends of Twilight. Why didn't she just send a ticket for all of them right off the bat? Like, what the heck? This was another criticism that I never really understood. Like you gotta remember, people, this was the very beginning of the series, and like, after she got the letter, maybe she was all like, "Oh wow, my student's learning a lot about friendship already. I'm so proud of her." Or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was a friendship test, maybe it was just an honest mistake, but regardless, I never accused Celestia of being a troll for that at all. Like, the bottom line is, Princess Celestia is nothing like what these, Trollestia memes denounce her as. Like, when you watch the show, you'll see that she's very wise, very powerful, and very brave, and is someone not to be messed with. But she's also very, like, maternal. Like, she's a mother figure to Twilight, and she's very kind-hearted and sweet and easygoing, and she has a fun-loving side, too. All of this put together really helps make for, like, someone you can look up to, like, an authority figure that you can idolize and really enjoy seeing. Yeah, she's kind of like MLP's version of Mufasa, in a sense. Mufasa! I just hear that name and I shudder. Mufasa! Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa! Boy, the tingles. Sorry, I know, it was a Lion King reference, but what could I say? I'm a huge Lion King fan, and I'm damn proud of it. But, yeah, the Trollestia stuff, and also the other negative memes revolving around her, like Molestia and stuff like that, I never got into that stuff. But considering some of the other weird stuff that I came across during my early days of this fandom, the Trollestia stuff pales in comparison, especially with the Cupcakes fanfiction. Oh, God. That fanfiction, dear Lord. I was given my first introduction to that fanfiction when I was in high school, and it's basically about Pinkie Pie doing all this stuff to Rainbow Dash and, well, let's just say, Pinkie Pie's characterization in that story is definitely not on point with her characterization in the show. Anyone who's read that fanfiction will likely remember that there's a lot of gore and all sorts of bloody stuff in that. Like, ugh, I don't like talking about it much. But yeah, that fanfiction, holy cow, I did not like it. Like, someone in that club read it to all of us, and I really did not like it at all. Thankfully, afterwards, I never came across it again, and I had the rest of the show to enjoy, where Pinkie Pie's characterization is so much better, so much more heartwarming, and so much more energetic and funny. Bottom line is, not everything about this fandom was 100% awesome for me. The same could be said for the show, too. Like, despite all the episodes that I found myself really enjoying, there were still episodes that did not hit their mark on me. Like, there were some that just watching them was very difficult without cringing so hard. Like, in Season 1, there were some episodes that didn't really click with me right away, like Dragon Shy and Bridal Gossip, and then come Season 2, we'd unfortunately get more episodes that were lackluster, especially Ponyville Confidential. But you know, that was alright. It didn't take away, my joy of watching the show at all. Like every other good show out there, there's occasionally episodes that don't work. It's like that with Classic SpongeBob. It's like that with Gravity Falls, it's like that with Beast Wars, it's like that with pretty much every great cartoon out there, so don't worry. But while some of the episodes were too problematic and some of the stuff from the fandom was way too weird for my taste, the negative stuff that I found from both was far outmatched by the positive stuff. Like most of the episodes were a lot of fun, and most of the fan work that I saw online was actually pretty good. Like, way too good, actually. Like some of the fan songs that I found online, like the Living Tombstone's Discord song. Like, everyone in that fandom is more than likely to know about that song because of how damn awesome it is. Like, Discord, I'm howling at the moon and sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon. Discord, whatever did we do to make you take our world away? Oh my god, that is so awesome. And then there were other fan songs that were online, like Don't Mine at Night from Jan Animations, basically featuring a Button Mash and Sweetie Belle playing Minecraft, which was really funny. It's basically a parody of Katy Perry's Last Friday Night, I think it's called, but it was still awesome, and I always love coming back to that video. And then you had other songs like Photo Finish and With Picture Perfect Pony, and a Lyra Heartstrings song, Anthropology, and so many other songs that were so good and so creative. Like, it showed that this fandom was putting together their own original stuff, like, related to the show, and it was so cool. That said, though, not everything from this fandom was all happiness and made for laughs or whatnot. Like, there were some fanfictions that, from what I've heard, were also pretty darn sad, and I'm not talking about Cupcakes, obviously, but I'm talking about this fanfiction called My Little Dashie. I still have yet to read that fanfiction, but from what I've heard from others, it made them cry. And there were also some fan songs that, rather than make you happy and energetic and have a good laugh, they actually tug at your heartstrings. Probably the biggest example of this would have to be Lullaby for Our Princess. It's basically sung by Princess Celestia on how she failed on trying to save her sister from becoming Nightmare Moon, and now she had no choice but to banish her to the moon to save the kingdom. It's a really emotional song, but it was so well written and so well sung that you gotta give kudos to the fandom for creating this kind of stuff, you know? And then there was the fan animation with Princess Luna set to the song Come Little Children. The video title is called Children of the Night. And holy cow, is it bone-chilling. Like, the animation and effects are really well done. It matches very well with the song, and just watching that is just, whoa! That is so awesome. Like, I'm sure everyone in the fandom is gonna remember that video too. Like, all of this showed that the fandom, in addition to enjoying the show, was inspired to get creative with their own works, you know? Which was also really cool. In fact, seeing all this creative stuff from the fandom, that was one reason why I found myself really enjoying this. Like it was this point in time where I felt like I was getting myself into something special. And eventually I would hear that the fandom would be taking its passion for My Little Pony to the next level by putting together much bigger gatherings than before. Case in point, the conventions. Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden, MLP is becoming such a huge phenomenon that all of a sudden we're getting Brony conventions. And at the time, conventions for me were kind of a new thing. Like, they were very easy to get. Like, in my hometown, we had SnafuCon, an anime convention. But I think it was around when I started community college where I started hearing about the Brony conventions. And, well, specifically BronyCon, because it was the only one I heard of at the time. And I heard that it was a pretty big convention, too. And I also remember on YouTube there were some videos from the convention, and it had a voice actor panel with some of the voice actors talking about their experiences with the show and answering questions from the fans. Like this video had Andrea Libman, Ashley Ball, and Nicole Oliver, and it was really entertaining. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I remember certain things about it. Like, at one point, one fan asked Ashley Ball to say a line in Applejack's voice, and she did so, like, being all, "Forget you, I can eat all these apples." And that was really funny. And then there was another part where one fan gave a nice drawing of Celestia to Nicole, and she really liked it. Like, that was really cool too. Like, these fans being so passionate about the show, they were giving gifts to the actors as, like, thank you gifts, you know? So yeah, that was really cool too. The conventions were starting to come together. But it wasn't until I saw some videos from the YouTube channel Random Encounters where I really wanted to check out one of these conventions myself. Like, these two videos, they were basically parodies of two of the songs from the show. One of them was This Day Aria from the Season 2 finale, A Canterlot Wedding, while the other one was a parody of At the Gala from The Best Night Ever. The first one had everyone singing about how it's actually hard being a brony without facing, like, discrimination from others for their interest in a pony show, and yet they remain very adamant about loving this show for what it offers, which was really cool. Now, as for the other one, it had the selected few singers singing about what they looked forward to during a convention. Like, I remember the beginning, one of the dudes was like, "I can't believe I'm finally here, after all the hard work and dedication and anticipation and preparations and all sorts of other stuff. This is gonna be the best night ever!" Like, when he said that, he had so much enthusiasm in his voice, and he had such a huge grin. It was so funny and cute. Like this guy was so excited for this convention, and I think he was around my age, but yeah, he was very excited, and after watching those videos, I was like, oh my god, I gotta check out one of these! This is so cool! But at the same time, I was also unsure, because during that time, I wasn't sure if my family would be accepting of my newfound interest, and part of me was also wondering, is it right for me to be into this kind of stuff? Now, me watching kids shows like this was nothing new. Like I was already into other kids shows like Wow Wow Wubsy and The Backyardigans on Nick Jr., and there was also the Little Einsteins and some Winnie the Pooh stuff on Playhouse Disney, now called Disney Jr., but I usually watched those shows in secret when there was no one else around. But with My Little Pony, I was really unsure if it would be alright with my family. Eventually, they did find out I was into the show when season 3 rolled around, and I started watching the show on my family room TV, and they didn't seem to mind. Ultimately, I think it was in 2013 when they found out about my interest in the Brony conventions, and they didn't seem to mind that either. Sadly, though, BronyCon that year was unfortunately not going to be an option because we already had some big plans for that year, like a family gathering in Vermont and some family stuff in New York City, and a trip to San Diego where I also have family. So yeah, BronyCon that year, I was unfortunately unable to attend. But I'm not saying the family stuff wasn't fun. Oh, no. The family stuff that I went to that year was extremely fun, and they were big highlights of the year, so don't worry. However, even though BronyCon was not an option, my parents suggested that I go online to see if there were Brony conventions closer to me that wouldn't be as expensive as booking a flight to where BronyCon was happening, you know? And so we did, and lo and behold, there were Brony conventions happening close by. Like, the closest one at the time was happening in Sacramento, California. I registered for that, and we booked a hotel room, and when the time came, I drove down to Sacramento with my mom and a good family friend of ours, and while they went off and did their thing, I stayed behind to check out the convention. It was called Sac Brony Expo, and oh my god, I loved it! I had never been to a convention where the people were just so passionate and energetic and enthusiastic about celebrating a show like this, you know? Like, yeah, there was SnafuCon, but that was an anime convention, and not all forms of anime were stuff that I was familiar with. But with this was all about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and everyone was just so fun to be around, and they were enthusiastic, they were really funny, and holy cow, it was just so much fun with all the energy and all the enthusiasm and all these creative and awesome cosplays. The big highlight of that convention for me was a karaoke event where I sang some songs with many others, both from the show and from the fandom, and oh my gosh, that was just so cool. So yeah, you could say that my first experience going to a Brony convention was a smashing success. Sadly though, Sac Brony Expo, it was a one-day event, and it sadly didn't come back for future years. But that was alright, because we were reassured that all the money raised for that convention was going straight to charity. And that was also where I picked up a flyer for another Brony convention that was going to happen near my hometown. This one, however, was happening in San Francisco. And unlike Sac Brony Expo, this one was going to be much bigger. It was a weekend event, it was at a bigger hotel, and there were actually going to be some voice actors and writers from the show showing up there as guests. So this was something I definitely had to look into. This convention would be known as the Bay Area Brony Spectacular, or BabsCon as it's more commonly referred to. Now, on the flyer that I picked up, I learned that Andrea Libman, who voices Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy, was going to be there, but as I went on BabsCon's website to see more, I would learn that more and more voice actors would be coming as guests, like Tara Strong, who does Twilight Sparkle, Ashley Ball, who does Applejack and Rainbow Dash, Peter New, who voices Big Macintosh, and so on. But of all the voice actors who were coming there as guests, the one whom I wanted to meet the most was Nicole Oliver, who voices Princess Celestia in Cheerilee. When I found out she was going to be there, I definitely grew with excitement. Like, Princess Celestia is my personal favorite character in the show, and after hearing that Nicole was going to be at BabsCon, I was like, now I really gotta check this out. This could be my big chance to meet her. So I registered for the convention, we booked a hotel room, I put together a little drawing of Princess Celestia raising the sun as a planned gift for Nicole, and when the time came, my parents and I drove out to San Francisco and we just took it from there. And like Sac Brony Expo, this convention was crazy awesome and a lot of fun to experience. But it was also during this convention where I learned a very important lesson on planning out where I'm going to be and when I would get in line for certain events because, and this may have been obvious from the start, but I was far from being the only one who wanted to meet these people. One of the biggest things I remember from that convention was that some of the lines were very, very long, especially for the autograph session with the voice actors. That line for the autographs, it was pretty damn long, and it actually expanded to outside the hotel, and having missed my opportunity to ask a question to the voice actors at the voice actor panel, which came right before the line for the autographs, things were not looking good for me. But I was not giving up. Instead, I was like, no, I've waited all my life for this moment, and I'm not going to let it slip by. If it's the last thing I do, I'm gonna make this the best night ever! Okay, maybe not like that word per word, but yeah, and it was a reference to the season 1 finale best night ever. But I'm sure you get the idea. Like, I was not backing down from this opportunity at all. Like I've waited a long time for this, and at the time, I wasn't sure if I'd get an opportunity like this again. So yeah, despite how things were looking, I kept my place in line, and the weather outside was very nice, so there was no need to worry about that. And I had some nice conversations with other people waiting in line. And I think after an hour and a half of waiting, one of the convention volunteers came by and started asking for people who wanted to see certain actors. Like, I think he was asking for people who wanted to see Peter New, Nicole Oliver, and maybe a few others. I'm not sure why this was the case. Like, maybe the selected voice actors were getting ready for a break from meeting their fans or something. Or maybe they wanted some people near the back of the line to have a chance to meet them. Again, I don't know what the deal was, but regardless, I said I wanted to meet Nicole, and like that, I was given a shortcut to the autograph room. And I was directed to where I had to wait in line. I paid for a voucher for a photograph. And when it was finally my turn to meet Nicole, I could say with full confidence that that wait was 100% worth it. Nicole was very social and welcoming and sweet, and she was very nice to talk to, and she loved the drawing that I gave her, and I got my photograph with her, and yeah, that was just, oh my gosh. She was the first MLP voice actor I ever met, and man oh man. And considering that I would later go on to meet other MLP voice actors as the years would go on, this moment with Nicole was a great start. Like, I still have the photo that I got with Nicole, and I treasure it so much. Like, that was the biggest highlight of the convention for me that year. And when that was done and I got back to the hotel room, I could not get the smile off my face. Like, I was just so damn proud of myself and so happy, and it was a big accomplishment. I got to meet the voice of Princess Celestia, and what else could I say? I was so happy and proud. That was a memory that has stuck with me for the rest of my life, and there's no way in hell that I would ever forget it. I can guarantee that. But that wasn't the only big highlight of the convention, though. Two other things that happened were, I got to see the newest episode at the time with my fellow bronies. It was from Season 4, and it was called Traja, and that was really fun. But there was another panel happening that was actually a voice acting competition. It was called the Voice Equestria, where a selected 5 people were allowed to go up on stage and basically go through all these voice acting challenges set upon them by the judges, who were voice actors from the show. Like Nicole Oliver was there, and so was Peter New and Tara Strong and Brian Drummond, aka Mr. Over 9000, as he voices Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, that was really fun too. Like it was very entertaining. There were parts that had me laughing pretty hard, and it gave me a whole new respect and new way of looking at voice acting. And it was at this moment where I was like, you know what? Maybe I should look into this. Like, yeah, my main interest is graphic design and animation, but yeah, I thought after seeing this and after meeting Nicole, I thought maybe I could look into voice acting too. Like, it is true that I don't look into voice acting as much as I do with animation and storyboarding and storytelling and whatnot, but from time to time it's something that I look into and am eager to learn more about and expand my knowledge on. So yeah. Put all this together, and BabsCon 2014 was just an incredible experience, and it was one of the biggest highlights of the year, and to my amazement, unlike SAC Brony Expo, this convention was going to come back in the following years. And because of this, BabsCon would pretty much be my go-to Brony convention as the years would go on. Like, come 2015, 16, 17, and so on, this would be the Brony convention that I would go to the most. And because of this, I found myself making a lot more memories at this convention. Like 2015, I got to meet Tara Strong, and I actually did try out for the Voice Equestria, but I didn't make it. But that was alright, the panel was still fun. And as the years would go on, I'd make a lot more memories, and I'd end up meeting a lot more voice actors, like Andrea Libman, Ashley Ball, Peter New, Tabitha St. Germain, Maurice LaMarche, John Delancey, Rebecca Schoiket, Kelly Sheridan, and many more. If I had to choose two of my favorite BabsCons throughout the years, I would have to go with 2016 and 2019. With 2016, not only was I able to meet Nicole Oliver again, and not only was that when I got to meet Andrea Littman for the first time, but that was also the first time where I actually met up with one of my online friends, like in person and in the flesh. The person whom I got to meet up with in person was my friend Rachel Harrell, who's an aspiring voice actress and is really talented and funny. Like, she was one of the participants in that year's Voice Equestria, and she did a fantastic job. Long beforehand, I had been friends with her online, and I've been keeping in touch with her on DeviantArt. We're both fans of Disney movies, and we've been in touch over the years. She's a very nice, friendly individual. And when I got to meet her in person, oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. Like she was very sweet and fun to be around and very optimistic and so on. Like in the fandom, she's the voice of Sailor Moon in Toucan LDM's Sailor Moon Meets MLP video. But yeah, getting to meet her at that convention, it was just so much fun. And as of this video, I have yet to meet her in person again, but I still stay in touch with her on Discord and Facebook and Twitter, and I hope to meet her again someday soon. And I wish her the best of luck in her voice acting dream. In fact, throughout my years of going to BabsCon, it's given me a lot of opportunities to make new friendships and become acquainted with others, you know? Like, that was where I got to meet and be friends with Toucan LDM, who's a very talented and funny animator, and that was where I got to meet and become acquainted with DeWilstonator and I Love Kim Possible a lot, and that was where I got to meet other awesome people like Silverquill, Dr. Wolf, Lightning Bliss, Josh Scorcher, and AC Race Best and Saberspark, and Dusty Cat, and many more. Like, that's one thing I picked up from these conventions. Not only are these conventions really fun and allow for a lot of fond memories and laughs and whatnot, but they're also very important because they give opportunities to make new friendships and form connections with one another. Like, that's one very important thing about these conventions, and one huge reason why they've become a huge part of my life, and that's why I hope that once this 2020 pandemic is done, we can have more of these conventions, because I've been lacking in that department pretty badly. But yeah, like, these conventions, they're a very important part of my life, and I'm so happy to have come across them, you know? Meanwhile, as for BabsCon 2019, that was another one of my favorite BabsCons to go to, because that was where I really got to know some of the Brony analysts, and there was a hilarious improv show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? But there was another reason why I found that convention so much fun, but I'll talk about that later. Eventually, though, after all these years of going to BabsCon, I would finally get my initial wish of going to BronyCon when 2019 came into play. Like, that was the year where I finally got a chance to go to that convention, even though, sadly, it was going to end after that year. But hey, at least I got to experience it once, though I really wish I experienced it more than that. But, oh well. But yeah, BronyCon 2019, that was a really fun convention too. Like, it was so huge, and I got to meet up with people who I've been friends with, like Toucan LDM, and I got to meet up with I Love Kim Possible a lot again, and I got to meet some of her team, some of whom I've been friends with for years beforehand too, and there was another funny Whose Line Is It Anyway, and oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I know I keep saying that, but seriously, these Brony conventions are awesome. But one other thing about these Brony conventions that made me so happy to be a part of this fandom was not just the fact that I was making friends, but also the fact that this fandom was so welcoming and accepting. This was especially the case when BabsCon 2015 began, because that was the year where I started wearing my cosplay of Simba from the Lion King Broadway show. Like, beforehand, I put it together for SnafuCon of 2014, but for BabsCon 2015, my parents suggested that I wear the costume there too. And I was actually very unsure because, as you all know, it wasn't My Little Pony related, it was related to something different. And I was worried I would face discrimination from others, like I was worried people would be like, dude, this is a Brony convention, not a Lion King convention. I think you're in the wrong place. However, I still brought the cosplay with me, I wore it to the convention, and to my amazement, no one had any problems with it at all. Like they all thought it was really creative and awesome, and they were giving me a lot of praise for this costume, and it just made me so happy. And that once again showed that this fandom was very accepting and welcoming, and And it's because of this that many people at BabsCon have come to identify me as pretty much the Lion King guy, because they really like my cosplay, and that's what I'm also into in addition to MLP. Once again shows that this fandom is so accepting, and another reason why I'm very proud to be a Brony. And during this time of enjoying the show, the fandom, and the conventions, we would end up getting a documentary focused on the fandom, featuring Lauren Faust, the creator of the show, and Tara Strong, John Delancey, and many other members of the show who've come to embrace this fandom and the Bronies. I actually rewatched that movie not too long ago, and it's so moving, and it has a lot of deep elements to the show, and how much it means to so many people, and it actually follows a selected few people around the world, and how this show means a lot to them, and their experiences with BronyCon, and how their lives improved for the better because of this show and fandom. Like, it's just so cool, like, and from what I picked up from this movie, it further made me even more proud to be a member of this fandom. This fandom allowed for more friendships and connections to be made, and they donate to good causes, and oh my gosh, like, it's such a great movie that I highly recommend you check out if you can. It really adds a lot more meaning to, like, the essence of this fandom and what it means to many people, and so on and so forth, you know? It's definitely a worthwhile experience. Meanwhile, while all this convention and fandom stuff is going on, the show would be carrying on as well with its numerous episodes and seasons. Now, one reason why this show proved to be so popular was because of how well the characters were written and the story arcs that they followed. And when watching the show, those reasons for the show being popular are very well founded, because these characters, while some of them were annoying on some occasions, in the long run, they were all worth rooting for in whatever story arcs they found themselves going through. Like, you had Twilight Sparkle, who was now living in Ponyville with Spike and learning about friendship and becoming a better pony, while the other main 6 characters had their own individual stories, and they were all worth rooting for too. Like Rainbow Dash, for example. Even though I did say that she was kind of annoying in the earlier seasons, she was still a nice character to root for, and her ultimate ambition was to join the Wonderbolts and in a sense, protect Equestria alongside them. And in most of the episodes that revolved around her, whenever her loyalty was put on full display, it would usually result in some episodes, like the Wonderbolt Academy from Season 3, to become really memorable episodes that are always fun to look back on, especially when you know what'll happen to Rainbow Dash near the end of the show. Like in Wonderbolt Academy, her loyalty was put on pretty well towards the climax, where, after a series of unfortunate occurrences with fellow Wonderbolt tryout Lightning Dust, Rainbow Dash would initially resign from the Wonderbolts if it meant that being the best of the best would mean endangering others, including her own friends. Thankfully, though, this never came to pass, and shortly after Rainbow Dash tried to resign, Spitfire caught up with her and agreed with her wholeheartedly. Like, she said that being the best should never, under any circumstances, come at the expense of their fellow ponies. And because of that, she found a whole new respect for Rainbow Dash and promoted her to team leader. And from there, Rainbow Dash would find herself going on more Wonderbolt-related adventures, until finally, I think it was in Season 6, where she became a full-fledged Wonderbolt. But there were other story arcs as well, like Fluttershy and her character development throughout the series. Like, in the beginning of the show, she was a very shy and timid character whom at certain points could barely speak her mind, but as the show would progress, she would become more and more assertive while still retaining the gentle, kind-hearted soul that we all know she has. And in later episodes like Fluttershy Leans In, her character development would be put on full display in such a way that you just can't help but feel so proud of her, you know? Like, Celestia may be my favorite character in the show, but when it comes to the main 6, Fluttershy is my all-time favorite, and I always love seeing character development episodes for her and what she goes through and all sorts of other stuff she does. But this did not mean that the main 6 were the only characters with engaging story arcs. Oh no. Right from Season 1, there would occasionally be episodes revolving around supporting characters who have their own stories to go through, like the Cutie Mark Crusaders and what they go through throughout the show. While Twilight and her friends were the stars of the show, Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo would go through their own stories as they try to find their purpose in life by first finding their cutie marks. This would lead to a wide series of shenanigans for this trio, and while some episodes were not executed to the best of their abilities, some episodes were indeed fun, and the overall story with the CMC is still a really engaging piece of MLP's history. Like in the first few seasons, they try all sorts of stuff to get their cutie marks, and while just about all of these stories ended with them not getting their cutie marks, it still made room for some character development for them, until finally, come Season 5's Crusaders of the Lost Mark, after reaching out to Diamond Tiara and making her change her bullying ways, they soon find a new passion in life by deciding to help others improve themselves for the better. But once they decide on this, they suddenly get their cutie marks. Yeah, like when that episode first aired, I was just beyond shocked. Like, I did not see that coming, and I'm sure many others didn't see that coming either. But yeah, the climax of that episode where they get their cutie marks, it's just so triumphant and so emotional, and that was one of the best moments from watching that show. Like, when they got their cutie marks, I felt like their whole journey of getting them was just so damn worth it. But then you had other character arcs that would turn out to be very engaging and fun to follow as well, like Discord and what he went through in the show. When he was first introduced in Season 2's with the return of Harmony, he was presented as the main antagonist, and he tried to shroud Equestria in eternal chaos, and he was a dangerous foe, but he was also such a goofball with his desire just to be chaotic for the heck of it, and he was given a terrific performance by John Delancey, and that episode helped establish Discord as one of the best characters in the whole show. But even afterwards, come Season 3's Keep Calm and Flutter On, he would come back, but only under the decree that he would be reformed. And this would be the start of not just his new character arc, but also some more character development on Fluttershy's part, because she was the one who helped him decide to try to be a good guy from now on. And while there was some serious tension between him and the rest of the main six in Season 4, he would ultimately reform for good by the end of Season 4, and from there he would become a regular supporting character showing up from time to time. Still very mischievous and chaotic, but in the long run just trying to be a good friend. And most of the episodes revolving around him ended up becoming some of my favorites from each season. And while the idea of him coming back as a reformed ally may have been very questionable at first, I was eventually won over by it, and I would always look forward to seeing Discord each season. And the same could be said for Starlight Glimmer when she became a main character from Season 6 onwards. Like in Season 5, she was introduced as the main antagonist, but after Twilight reached out to her in the Season 5 finale, she reformed and became Twilight's protege, which also allowed for character development not just from Starlight but also Twilight, because this was her chance to be the teacher this time around, which was a new path for Twilight at this time. And while Starlight was kind of a mixed bag for me at first, there were definitely some colleagues of mine who did not like the idea of Starlight being a main character. But over time, I grew to accept Starlight and appreciate her company, and she definitely had her moments of glory here and there, and she's overall a really fun character to see. Not the strongest character in the whole show, but still a good character nonetheless. But while we're on the topic of new turns of events for the show, there was one that had me extremely shocked and even worried of what was going to happen next. And that was the end of Season 3, where Twilight found herself completing one of Starswirl the Bearded's new spells, and she soon found herself becoming the Princess of Friendship by getting a new pair of wings and becoming an alicorn. When that season finale aired, I was beyond shocked, but not in the same way that I would be shocked when Crusaders of the Lost Mark would come out. Like, when this happened, I was left with so many questions, and I was really unsure of where the show was going to go after this. Like, granted, after Season 4 rolled around and we got more episodes, it was something that was easy to get used to, but at the time, I had no idea what was going to happen next. And it also didn't help that shortly after Season 3 finished, we were introduced to Equestria Girls. Yep, that was when we got our first introduction to the spin-off series, where we get to see our beloved ponies as humans. Well, technically, they're human counterparts in a different world, but yeah, it's still pretty much applies. And yeah, when Equestria Girls came out, there were even more mixed reactions. Like, I was still unsure of where the show was going at this point in time. But when I did check out Equestria Girls, I thought it was okay. Not the best thing that came out of MLP, but it was still okay. It had a nice story revolving around Twilight entering this portal and and finding herself a human in this new world, and this was where we got to meet the future star of the Equestria Girls series, Sunset Shimmer, who, similar to Starlight Glimmer later on, would start off as the main antagonist, but shortly afterwards, as the series would carry on, she would be a reformed character whom, when I was first introduced to her, I didn't really care for her all that much, but as the Equestria Girls series carried on with more and more stories and more drama and all sorts of other stuff, I would quickly grow accustomed to Sunset Shimmer and even declare her my favorite character in that spin-off series. Like, she became someone whom I became very sympathetic towards. I could laugh alongside with her, I could root for her whenever she was trying to do something heroic, and she was given a great performance by Rebecca Shoykett. Like, you gotta give major kudos to her for helping bring this character to life, just like how all the other voice actors have done for their respective characters. And then came 2017 when we ended up getting a theatrical movie, which was also really fun to watch. I actually ended up watching that movie in theaters on the show's 7th anniversary, but that was more or less by accident because I didn't know about that until I finished watching the movie and I got back to my car, and I saw that day was October 10th, 2017, and when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh! I ended up seeing the movie on the show's 7th anniversary! What are the odds? Like, no joke, I did not know that it was the 7th anniversary when I went to see that movie. But wow, what a lucky coincidence. But yeah, that movie was really fun. It had a lot of really hard emotional content and some great new characters, and yeah, that could be counted as canon because what followed afterwards was Season 8, where we ended up seeing some continuations of certain elements from the movie when the main six started the School of Friendship, and we were introduced to the Student Six, Sandbar, Yona, Smolder, Ocellus, Silverstream, and Gallus, and what they were bringing to the table. And while I admit that Season 8 was a rather weak season, heck, 2018 in general was not really a strong year for MLP, it was still really enjoyable and it helped me get through that year since it was a very tough year to go through to begin with. And then came 2019, where we ended up with Season 9. And throughout this time, the storytelling quality was still on point. It may not have garnered the same craze as some of the earlier seasons, but it was still a high-quality show worth watching. But when that year rolled around, there was some sad news to boot as well, because in February of that year, it was confirmed that MLP would be ending with its 9th season. And when I first heard that news, my heart sank like a rock. Like, I was really, really sad about this. Like, yeah, admittedly, part of me was thinking that at some point the show would end, but still, hearing this news, I grew pretty sad. I mean, yeah, it's also true that I was able to survive the ending of Phineas and Ferb, but this was a different story. Like thanks to this show, a large community of people came together and started celebrating friendship, and new friendships were made, and to hear that this show was ending, it had me in a very worried state, because at the time I was like, wait, if this show is ending, does this mean the fandom's going to end too? Like, this news was very hard to swallow at first, and it especially didn't help when the first trailer for Season 9 first aired. Like, that trailer had Celestia and Luna announcing their plans to retire, and we had this footage of some of the upcoming episodes showing the characters in one of their biggest conflicts yet, and then we had Discord delivering the line, "You're here together. Nothing can ever take that away from you," in such a somber, voice. Like you know things are gonna be really sad and emotional when Discord, of all people, is acting the same way. And while all this is going on, we got the sad rendition of the title theme song, really driving home that this was going to be the final series of adventures we see these characters in for the show. Like, when that trailer ended with "Do you know you're all my very best friends?" Oh my gosh, it goes without saying that I got pretty emotional after seeing that trailer. It's a great trailer, but still, it was really sad. But eventually, after the initial sadness started fading away and we were getting closer to the Season 9 premiere, I decided that if this was going to be the last season of MLP, the least I could do is welcome it with open arms and give it a fair shot. That's something I felt that Lauren Faust would want. That's something I felt Nicole Oliver, Tara Strong, and all the other voice actors would want. That's something I felt the writers would want. Heck, that's something I'm sure my family would have wanted as well, because by this time, they were very supportive of my love for the show and fandom. And when the Season 9 premiere rolled around, the beginning of the end, it was called, I decided that welcoming this with open arms would be a fantastic solution, because that premiere, whew, that was an intense premiere. Like, that two-parter premiere, like, it delivered what we were given at the trailer, like Celestia and Luna planned to retire, and they told Twilight that she would be taking their place when the time comes, but then we ended up getting a much larger conflict than before. Like, it was at this season premiere where we were introduced to Grogar, whom would recruit some previous villains whom the heroes faced in the past, like Queen Chrysalis, Lord T-Rex, Cozy Glow. He even brought back Sombra after his defeat in Season 3's premiere. Like, Sombra was the main antagonist in that premiere, but he was ultimately defeated, and like, there was a lot of emotional drama and a lot of serious moments, and that line that Discord said in the trailer, he said that in this premiere to motivate the main six to keep on going despite all the odds stacked against them, in a really heartwarming scene. And yeah, Sombra was defeated, and Twilight and her friends were given the confidence that when the time would come, they'd be ready to take over the kingdom. But Grogar and his new legion of villains were still at large, and oh my gosh, after watching that premiere, my sadness quickly turned into excitement because I was now extremely eager to see what would happen next. And as the series carried on, it delivered a lot of fantastic episodes, and it really showed the writers, for the most part, brought their A-game and were trying their best to help close off the show with a huge bang, and occasionally we were getting episodes that actually paid tribute to what some of the characters were doing throughout the show, like The Last Crusade paid tribute to the CMC and what they were doing, and the Summer Sun Setback, where the Summer Sun celebration was transformed into a festival of the two sisters, and oh my gosh, this season was incredible. And it was also during this time where I got to see the 200th episode at BabsCon that year, and that was another huge highlight. And that was also a time where I was given reassurance about the future of this fandom. Remember when I said that 2019 was another one of my favorite BabsCons? Well, during that year, like I said, I was given reassurance about the fandom by Saberspark and AC Racebest during their panels. Like they reassured everyone that even if the show was going to end, the fandom would more than likely carry on as the years would follow. And those words meant a huge deal for me. Like, they made me feel so much better, and I actually took the time to thank them for those words, and they were very flattered. And yeah, that was another reason why 2019 was one of my favorite BabsCons. But even with that, just the spirit, enthusiasm, energy, and happiness that I was seeing from everyone at that convention, like, it really showed that the fandom was still going pretty darn strong. And that was also the case when BronyCon came into the picture. Like, when I got to go to BronyCon that year, just about everyone in that fandom was still very enthusiastic about the show, and so were the actors. I got to meet up with Nicole Oliver again. I got to meet Kathy Wesluck, the voice of Spike, Britt McKillop, the voice of Cadence, and Michelle Krieber, the voice of Apple Bloom, and yeah, like, just being at that convention, it further reassured me that this fandom was still as enthusiastic about the show as it was in previous years. That made me feel so much better. And even my family was very reassuring to me as well. Like, they were sure that the fandom would still carry on by pointing out to other franchises that have ended but still are widely discussed to this day, like the Harry Potter movie series. Like, that series finished off in 2011, and yet it's still as beloved and popular today. Like, all of this put together really helped me recover from my initial sadness of hearing that the show was going to end, and it further made me ready and prepared to tackle whatever Season 9 was going to throw at me next. And while some episodes were still not the best in the world, the overall season was still just a fantastic experience. Eventually, though, the time would come to see the Season 9 finale and see how the show would close off. In fact, I remember before the finale, there was a huge marathon of all of the episodes that we saw beforehand. Like, similar to what Disney XD did for Phineas and Ferb when that show was going to end, Discovery Family aired all of the episodes back to back until it was finally time to see the finale. Like, we started off with the two-parter, The Ending of the End, and then afterwards we would get the very last episode, The Last Problem. Now, for The Ending of the End, This was where we would finally get our final showdown with adversity, and where we would see Twilight and her friends conquer over evil in one last challenge. And was it as awesome as I thought it would be? I'd say yes. Of course, yeah, it was flawed in some departments. Like, I really didn't like the twist of Discord being Grogar this whole time, all in an effort to boost Twilight's confidence when her time would come to rule the kingdom. Like, that was one of the dumbest mistakes that he ever made in the show. But I do give him credit for starting Equestria's counterattack against the bad guys by exploiting Lord T-Rex's weaknesses, and this gave the main six the chance to escape and find Twilight and come up with the next plan of attack. And given what happens to the villains at the end of the two-parter, I'll cut him some slack. Like, his initial actions were not the best, but he made up for them at least. Meanwhile, for just about everything else in that two-parter, the action was very intense, and we got to see the main six fight off the villainous trio in a pretty serious battle, but when it seems the villains are getting the upper hand, we suddenly get a huge army of characters whom we met before, like ponies and yaks, dragons, griffins, the Kirin, etc., all brought together to assist the heroes and defeat the villains once and for all. Yeah, that final battle was just a lot of fun to watch. And it ultimately finished off with Twilight giving another inspirational speech, which also had some meta context, like talking about how others would carry on their lessons of friendship, like as time would go on. And together with her friends, she unleashes a powerful blast of energy, and boom! It drains Chrysalis, T-Rex, and Cozy Glow of the magic they stole from Grogar's bell in an earlier episode, and Discord reclaims his chaos magic, and he gives back Celestia and Luna's magic, and together they ultimately seal the fate of the villainous trio once and for all. A very action-packed two-parter, but this was not the very last episode. Oh no. Because, like, right after this, we were finally given our very last episode of the show, The Last Problem, and that was where the emotions were really let out, big time. Because as this was the final episode, we would be getting some pretty emotional scenes, like it was now time for Twilight to move back to Canterlot with Spike to take over the kingdom, and there were some pretty emotional scenes between her and her friends, and despite a rather disastrous coronation, she and her friends take it with stride, and Starlight gives Twilight the Book of Memories in case she ever misses her friends, and Twilight decides to start the Council of Friendship where she and her friends meet once a moon, and they say goodbye to Celestia and Luna. Like, that was a very heartwarming sequence. It should be worth pointing out, though, that this whole ordeal of Twilight moving back to Canterlot was all told in a flashback, because when that episode starts, we're in a distant future where Twilight is ruling Equestria, and she's grown up with a flowing mane, and Spike is grown up, and she has a new student of her own named Luster Dawn, whom, like Twilight before her, was rather hesitant about making friends, but after hearing Twilight's story about how her coronation went, and after seeing the rest of the main six, now having gotten older and living lives of their own, she suddenly starts to see that maybe friendship could be worth studying. And Twilight, much like Celestia before her, knows exactly where to send Luster, and this was where the tears really started shedding. Because this was where the heroes started singing the very last song of the show, The Magic of Friendship Grows. And while this is going on, Twilight teleports herself and her friends back to Ponyville, and we get to see how some of the characters are doing, like the CMC are now teachers at the School of Friendship, and Starlight and Sunburst are still running the school, and some of the student six are among the faculty. Big Mac is still married to Sugarbelle and has a kid of his own, and we get to see the next generation of Wonderbolts led by Rainbow Dash, and we get to see Pound and Pumpkin Cake all grown up and running Sugar Cube Corner, and we get to see all the animals at Fluttershy's Animal Sanctuary. Like, I kid you not, every time I watch that scene, I always get very teary-eyed, and some tears are shed because it's such a beautiful sequence. And the song itself is incredible too. Like all the main characters get a chance to sing, and we get to see how things are going on in some of their loved ones' lives, and when the song begins to wrap up, we get to see like collages of most of the supporting characters we've seen throughout the show, almost like a final curtain call for them, until finally, when the song ends, Twilight sends Luster Dawn off to start making new friends, which she does, and we get the last shot of the main heroes standing together on the hilltop with the sun setting behind them, before we see the book that started the beginning of the series close its pages for the last time, signifying the end of the cartoon and capping off an incredible series. Oh my gosh, just talking about it right now, like, oh my gosh. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I could not imagine the series ending any other way. Like, it was a perfect finale to an incredible series. And for that, MLP has my thanks. God bless you, MLP. God bless you. So yeah, it goes without saying that I really enjoyed the series finale, and shortly after the last problem finished, I got in touch with some friends of mine on Discord who were also talking about the series finale, and we all got to share our feelings and emotions and how we felt about the finale and some of our past memories about being in the fandom. It was a really nice moment that I thought was definitely worth doing. And even afterwards, I started seeing a lot of fan art paying tribute to the show now that it came to an end, and I myself made a tribute drawing to the show, like with some of my OCs thanking the main six for all they had done in the show, and yeah, given how much I love the show, that drawing was unavoidable. And even afterwards, like after the show was over, like I'd still see more people making fan videos and even more fan art and stories and whatnot. So it really showed that the fandom was still willing to carry on, just like what AC Race Best and Saber Spark once told me. But even with that, I knew that my experience with MLP wouldn't be ending just like that. Like, the show continues to have reruns on Discovery Family, and whenever I get the chance, I go watch the episodes airing, or I just go online to see footage of the episodes. And even a month or so after the last problem aired, Reno Pop Culture Con happened, and Tara Strong was actually going to be there as a guest. And because of that, as well as considering how there were some other exciting things going to happen, like Jodie Benson was going to be there, and Linda Larkin, Charles Martinet, etc. Like, I knew my top priority for that convention was to go to Tara Strong and thank her for her work as Twilight Sparkle, and everything else she brought to the table with this show. Like, I first thanked her at her Q&A panel, and she was so flattered by what I was saying that she gave me a hug, which gave me a huge smile, and I also got to do a video recording of her where I thanked her for her work, and that was something that I just had to do once I found out she was going to be there. That convention was really fun, and one of the best conventions I've ever been to, but yeah, that moment with Tara Strong, that was something that I felt that I had to do, and after I accomplished it, I felt very proud of myself. So yeah, like, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, what else can I say except I love this cartoon oh so much. Like, ever since it came into my life way back in late 2011, it's always been something that's been a huge welcome relief whenever things were down in my life, and it's been such a fun cartoon to watch for all it offers. And yeah, like I said, given what it's about, with all of its characters and story arcs and thought-provoking messages and engaging story and inspirational character development and all sorts of other stuff, like the awesome songs and the animation and just how it inspired so many people to come together to celebrate friendship, this show has meant a huge deal for me, and I know it's meant a huge deal to many other people too. Like, it's one of those shows that, no matter how many times you watch, it's just incredible, you know? Like, I know I keep saying that, but seriously, the fact that this show, a show about colorful ponies based on the My Little Pony brand, inspired all this? Like, what else can you say? Like, it's just unbelievable, you know? And yeah, like, all the conventions that I've been to and all the fan stuff I've found online, like, all of it, the good and the bad, yeah, I'm very proud to have come across it. Like, of course, there are some things that I still don't like about the fandom, like the memes that paint some characters in negative lights and the Cupcakes fanfiction. Like, I'm not a huge fan of those, but like I said, the bad stuff of the fandom and the show was far outmatched by the positive stuff, and that's the stuff I tend to focus on. But still, like, this whole experience of watching the show and going to these places and making friends and making memories and being inspired to be more socially active and look into voice acting and other sorts of stuff, like, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything in the world. It's meant so much to me throughout the 2010 decade, and it still means a whole lot to me in 2020, even despite all the madness that's going on now. And even if the show is over, the impact that this show has, I hope gets carried on through generations to come. With all the stuff that the show offered and what came afterwards, and I know there's the spin-off series Pony Life that's still going on, and for that spin-off, most of the original cast are back for their respective characters, like Tara Strong, Andrea Lemon, Ashley Ball, Tabitha St. Germain, and Nicole Oliver is back too, and I know that show is still going on, and it is based off of Friendship is Magic, but I've only seen little bits of it, and while it hasn't caught my attention in the same way that Friendship is Magic has, I may be able to check it out in its full entirety someday. But yeah, Pony Life is still going on, and once this pandemic is over, I hope the conventions come back so we can celebrate more. But yeah, like I said, the fact that this show inspired all this incredible stuff to happen, it's so humble and incredible, and I'm so thankful that I was able to come across it. Of course, I never expected it to impact my life in such a huge way, but the fact that it has gives all the more reason to give it so much praise. It's a high-quality cartoon, and it deserves all the recognition it's gotten over the years, you know? I love My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. It's such a great series, and if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend you do so. If you're able to look past what it is on a surface level, just like what we in the fandom have, I'm sure you'll find yourself having a lot of fun with it. When a show like this is able to inspire so many people to come together to celebrate friendship and all sorts of other positive welcomings, it's definitely worth checking out. And as of this recording, we still have a ways to go before Generation 5 comes out, and who knows, maybe that generation will be a huge phenomenon too. If it is, I'm definitely willing to give it a chance. But if it's not, don't worry. We still have Friendship is Magic, Equestria Girls, the 2017 movie, and all the fandom stuff that came out during that time to enjoy. But regardless if Generation 5 is a huge success or not, as the curtain prepares to rise on that generation, and as we prepare ourselves for what show comes next, I feel it is our responsibility in the fandom to preserve what Friendship is Magic has done for us over the years. It's an inspirational story about how this show about ponies took the world by storm and brought out a lot of positive outcomes among many people, and for that, I say it's something worth treasuring and preserving. That whole experience with MLP, the Bronies, and all the other stuff that happened, it was something else. Let me tell you, it was something else. And one final thing I want to say before finishing off this video is that to everyone who helped contribute to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, like Lauren Faust, Tara Strong, Nicole Oliver, all the other voice actors, all the show writers, the songwriters, the animators, just everyone who helped contribute to the show, your contribution helped bring to life an incredible series that has meant so much to me over the years. It's been a huge part of my life, and because of that, I'm eternally thankful and grateful that it came out the way it has, and every last one of you who helped with the show, if you're watching this video by chance, let me just tell you, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for everything that you've done for this series. It's meant a huge deal to me. I'm eternally grateful. And happy 10th anniversary to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. The same can be said to everyone whom I've met in the fandom too. All you guys who I've met at SAC Brony Expo, BabsCon, BronyCon, and all the other meetups. Thank you guys too. It's been a huge honor getting to know every last one of you, and I wish you guys a happy 10th anniversary to the show too. It's a fantastic series that brought us all together, and I hope that it continues to inspire us as we continue our journeys in the great circle of life. And with that said, that officially wraps up this video of me talking about my life as a brony. I know there were some things that I didn't quite get to, but don't worry, I still plan on doing videos revolving around the top 10 episodes from each season. As of this video, I've only done seasons 1 and 2, and season 3 is next, and I have the script written out for that, and hopefully I can get to that too. But in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and hope you enjoyed me talking about my experience with the show and fandom, and I hope you guys are staying safe out there too. And if you get the chance, feel free to check out My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and also check out the Brony documentary, Bronies, the extremely unexpected adult fans of My Little Pony, and you'll get to see where I'm coming from. And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired by both the show and the fandom, just like how they've inspired me over the years. It really is something worthwhile. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you all are staying safe out there, and I hope you enjoyed what I had to offer today. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is KGrove94, signing off. Take care, everyone.